Someone had to weave all this stuff. They had to put in the effort. It's a very interesting practice. Just looking into
Looking into Madin.
looking straight into a camera. Because ultimately it's just an object, like anything else. It has no immediate signification. But we sense that it is kind of violating, you know? The very fact that you know it's a camera, it means that it's kind of a violating force. It's like a permanent tool of turning into an object. You know what I mean?
It's the objectifying object.
Exactly. It's like the gaze and such without
the only
without the
object
subject.
that looks at you back.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And you see yourself being seen.
Yeah.
It's quite an intense look about it.
There's two of them, huh?
Yeah, I don't know even which one I'm supposed to be looking at.
It's like two eyes staring into your soul.
Yeah.
And also a third eye on the side, the flashlight.
Hopefully we won't get rain. You know what I was thinking about? The fact that there's this huge building on top, but still Maslow has a high ceiling, you know?
Yeah.
So I'm like, how the fuck? Architecture is magnificent. If only I had become an architect.
Yeah.
Imagine I was an architect, like studying architecture.
Now you study economics, right?
Oh yes, yes.
Yeah.
Like a Wall Street broker to you.
Well, you are made out of very fine lines.
The same matter that makes up the Wall Street broker and a solar anus and
You have
a
certain
tablecloth.
You have certain broker shapes about you, like the folds of the jacket inside.
The fact that it's a jacket, basically.
Yeah. Under it, a shirt.
Do you think a Wall Street broker would actually show neck like this?
Yeah, but you're a student broker.
I see. Because I've seen many a student brokers with like just wearing full on tie, sort of black tie, white shirt combo.
You wouldn't rock that, I suppose.
Maybe.
How do you catch dreams?
I've never caught one. You know, I used to have these dreams growing up once in a while. It's a matter of pure affect that I've never been able to explain. That it has absolutely no meaning, no sort of tangible reality. But during the dream, of course, it does have something. And it's like a needle point where all of reality just sort of comes down to that needle point. It's like a simulation of the Big Bang in my mind. And as it would get closer, more and more condensed matter, whatever the fuck you want to call it, I would sort of get more and more anxious, and the very point in which it erupts, I would wake up. And I would be afraid to go to sleep for like an hour maybe, because I knew that it would happen again. And then it stopped happening until like 2 years ago when I was sick and I had a fever, and I woke up in the middle of the night from that same exact dream. Nothing different about it. So that was, and I've never been able to explain it or really get to what it is, understand it. But maybe there's nothing to understand. It's just sort of how I make the association is perhaps the point. But I don't know. Also, once when I was working on one of the songs for the first album, with quiet complaint that there's a riff in the very first song, Dark Flood, and I was playing the riff, and as I was playing the riff, I had the exact same feeling, you know. That very dream came to me in sort of a conscious state, basically. That was the most absurd thing. It was so brief as I was playing the riff, and I turned and I told John about it, and then he wrote the lyrics according to that. And yeah, so I don't know. I've never caught a dream, but if I were to catch one, it would perhaps be that one. No, I don't know.
Have you heard the story of the man whose feet left him for a pair of shoes?
I have heard it indeed.
When did you hear that?
I remember writing it, you know, specifically. Because we had all these riffs that we did not know what to do with, and I thought, well, how about we just combine them? And we called it bootleg, you know, as you do, a bootleg version of something. And then when it came to writing lyrics or working with any kind of wordly material, we thought, how about we just write about a boot and a leg, basically. Or, you know, a shoe and a foot type of thing. There's also a general inconsistency in the song, because is it the feet that's leaving, the boot that's leaving, the leg, it's a bit chaotic, but yeah, so that's how that emerged. Next question.
You say you were inspired by the Naked Lunch.
Oh, not directly. Indirectly, definitely. Naked Lunch is very much, for me, a constitutive force. It's first and foremost about what it means to think and what it can mean to think.
How do you deal with the loss of Sid?
I personally haven't experienced the loss of Sid yet. I haven't had the opportunity to delve into the novel that is whatever the... I'm not supposed to say what. There's a degree of reboot the word, let's see. There's some degree of fraud happening here. I thought this was an authentic experience, but I've been told that some material is out of bounds. And so I'm personally not okay with that.
Well, I suppose censorship is not bad all the time, especially when it comes to sort of creative efforts.
I mean,
there is always a need for censorship in creativity.
If you have revisionists who are trying to do bourgeois art in a revolutionary society, I would say censorship might be necessary. But of course, what we consider bourgeois art is important. If you consider the black wave, like the Gavran, for example, to be bourgeois art, I'd say that's mistaken. Just because it's not like talking about the Communist Party doesn't mean it's not revolutionary practice. So I would say some degree of censorship can be necessary. Perhaps. I don't know.
Well, the Gavran movie censors itself to pursuit of the Garvin.
What do you mean, censor itself?
It censors, it restricts itself. By censorship, I suppose I'm talking about restriction.
I mean, anything being put into action is going to be restricted by its own movement of coming into action. So each coming to action is a matter of something settling, something happening, which means that it is restricting itself from other possibilities, and there's always a sense of trauma that comes with the other options not being taken. And I think all works of art are haunted by what they could have been, to some extent, but not in a negative way. No? So
I had this conversation with Lacerate when he told me about the simulacra he heard on the other side of Tunnel 41, which is that the only way that a good story can be told is when you read a story and you really say to yourself, there is no other way that this story could have been told.
Yeah.
So it's about the story in a kind of platonic form, and the artist being able to come as close to it as possible with their art. And a good story essentially is one that when you read it this way, you can't read it any other way.
I partly agree with it, though to me the platonic form has to be reversed, because although it literally establishes something wherein it could have only been this way, but not precisely because the idea emerged through the way in which it was made. The idea did not precede the creative act, meaning that there's no idea which you can approach in two different ways. There's no thing that can be done in two different ways. It's simply that the creative act creates the idea, and precisely because it was that creative act that created it, it could not be created in any other way, right? So I would reverse your statement about the platonic form to imply, I guess, the same idea. That's how I see it. And to me, that's what the creative act is, you know? It's all about creating thought.
Where would you position yourself in the Rakatsa coordinates system?
Well, I've personally been positioned against my will in I've I guess I've been positioned with my will in Bambaklat, otherwise known as.
But of course, these are not static kind of systems. We're talking about a perception of your permanent character that can help us define this behavior, but you yourself, of course, as a being without an essence, I guess.
I thought it was a matter of intersubjective emergence, right? It emerges intersubjectively in your relationship with one to the other.
But one with yourself as well.
Oh yeah, of course. We're always other to, you know.
Yeah.
As Rambo said, no? I as another. Of course. Je ai un autre. Ouais. But I don't know, it's still, no matter what the auteur here indicates as the God dictating my movement, I would have to say that they do imply something of stasis, in my view. So, you know, Bambaklat, it is relatively stable. I can't really see the movement between them, at least they have not been explained in the divine literature that we've been handed.
So thank you so much.
You broke the